everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, I'm Kirsten Amanda and I'm a watercolor artist from Canada. Today I thought it would be fun to show you all of my watercolor art supplies and all of my packaging and everything that I use for my small business. Honestly, it's not a lot of stuff. I keep everything in this IKEA drawer unit and I find it works really well for me. As a watercolor artist, I don't need a ton of supplies, so I'm able to fit it all in here. I do also have some watercolor art prints and my finished watercolor pieces that I keep in another spot, but I will pull those out and show those to you as well later on. But for now, I just wanted to walk you through everything that I use for painting and for shipping and kind of what I reach to on a day-to-day basis. So I hope you get something out of this video. If it's not a new art supply, maybe it's just inspiration on how to store your supplies. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So starting at the top here is where I store all of my watercolor palettes. I store these on a dish rack from Amazon. I honestly get a ton of questions on how I store my palettes and what this is. So it's called Bamboo Dish Rack on Amazon. But honestly, any dish rack will work. I think this is an excellent way to store your palettes so you're not stacking them on top of each other in a drawer, and it takes up so much less space in my opinion, so I would highly recommend that. I actually got the idea from someone on Instagram who got the idea from another artist who got the idea from another artist, so let's keep that train going, and if you think that you'd like to store your palettes this way, I would honestly highly recommend it. As for the palettes themselves, I've gotten these from a number of places. The majority of them are from antique stores and thrift stores, so I can't link those unfortunately, but I do have some palettes that I've had made for me from Something Wild on Instagram, and I'll link her Instagram below. But she did make me a few palettes, this really cute to-go palette that I use all the time, and then also this larger palette, which I get a ton of questions on my Instagram as well, so if you're interested, check out her page. This is probably one of my favorite palettes. It's honestly just so unique and I love it a lot. Coming over to my brushes, I just store these in a cup. This cup was also made by Something Wild if you'd like to check her out. I don't actually store them like this when they're drying. I'll show you how I store them when they're drying later on, but once they're dry, I just like to chuck them all in a cup, and it's really easy to just grab this and go to my desk, and then I can just choose which brushes I need. This isn't all of my brushes. I do have some more in this drawer, which I'll show you, but these are the ones that I mostly use. They're my favorite brushes in here, so I have a lot of the Winsor & Newton Series 7 in a couple different sizes, and those are probably my favorite, but they're really hard to get your hands on and they're quite expensive. So a close second are these Oasis brushes, which I'll have linked down below as well. And I really love these because they're a mixture of sable and synthetic, so I find that they are very similar to the Winsor & Newton Series 7, and they come to a very fine point as well, so I do really love these brushes. I also have one silver black velvet. I'd honestly like to get more of these. I was really happy with this. This is a larger size, so I use this for covering a lot of space at once. It holds a lot of water, and this also comes to a very fine point, so I would really recommend these brushes as well, which I will also be getting more of very soon. And yes, so that's how I store the brushes that I reach for on a daily basis. So coming into the first drawer right here, honestly, this is probably one of my favorite drawers just because of how everything is stored so beautifully. This is a makeup holder. I believe it's from IKEA, so if you can find a makeup holder that slides into a drawer, I would highly recommend it for organizing some of your art supplies. This is kind of my go-to for painting and sketching and everything, so everything is just within reach for me and I really love that. So let's go through some of the stuff that I actually keep in here. So I have some clear tape here, and then I have my fine liners, which I use for my watercolor art sometimes, and I also really like to use these for writing in my cards with. So I just got a pack of these off Amazon, and I really like these ones actually. There's a bunch of different sizes, so I will link these below. And then I also have all of my pencils, so I use these for sketching out my watercolor art pieces, and then I use a couple of these for just sketching in general. My favorite pencil for sketching out my watercolor art is this Faber-Castell H pencil. I find that this one erases really easily and I really like it for sketching out my artwork. And I also have the F pencil in the same brand for sketching out my watercolor art as well, that I honestly used a lot when I started out. As you can see, it's been used the most, but I actually find the H pencil works a little bit better, so that's what I've been using. And then I also have just a regular HB pencil. That's for just sketching and playing around with my sketchbook. And this other pencil, what kind of lead is this? 6B. So this is a very, very soft lead, and I find that it's very messy, I guess. So I definitely couldn't paint over this if I wanted to. This is definitely more for sketching and shading and whatnot, so I just use this to play around in my sketchbook. And then over here, I have all of the brushes that I don't reach for on a daily basis. A lot of these brushes are from Da Vinci, which I honestly really wanted to like. I've bought quite a few Da Vinci brushes, and I've just never been happy with them. I find that they don't come to a fine enough point at the tip, so they really don't work the way that I'm used to having brushes work. So for me, I don't use these a whole bunch in my art, but I do still keep them because if I'm doing something different, I find that they work fairly well. So I have them in here, but not up top with my other day-to-day brushes. And then over here, I have this to-go watercolor pen. So if I ever want to fill this with water and use it for painting while I'm on the go, that's a really great tool. And then I also have this, I think it's called a bone folder. I'll link it in the description box below, but basically when I get sheets of watercolor paper from the art store and I fold them to rip them to use as different size paper, I use this to make sure that my edges are super clean. So I'm honestly reaching for this quite a bit, so I keep this in here as well. And then this compartment pops right out, so I'm just going to remove this so we can see what's underneath. So under here is where I store all of my watercolor paints. So I mostly work with Professional Series, Winsor & Newton. These are my absolute favorite, but I also have a couple Daniel Smith watercolors as well, which are a close second for me. I really like these, so if I can't find a color that I want in the Winsor & Newton, I will pick it up in the Daniel Smith. And then I also just have a to-go palette of Winsor & Newton. I think this is a Cotman palette, so not Professional Series, but honestly really great for on the go, and I find that they're pretty comparable to the Professional Series. If you want to give this a go, I would really recommend it. And then under here I have some gold watercolor paints that I got as a gift, and I reach for these sometimes to play around with, and they're really beautiful. These are actually from Amazon, so I will link these in the description box below. Coming to the back, I have my watercolor towels, so I use these for blotting my paint instead of using paper towel. I honestly just find that this is a lot better for the environment, and I never have a problem with using these and just letting them dry and reusing them. I've never washed them in my entire time painting, so these are really great, and I think they're just white towels, sorry, white face cloths from Amazon, so you can tell it's not white anymore, but if you just search up white washcloth, I find that these are nice and soft for my brushes as well. So if you want to give these a go, I would highly recommend getting some towels instead of using paper towel. And then I just have some odds and ends in here, my glasses, some string for tying up my watercolor sketchbooks that I hand make, and a couple of other things. This is to get masking fluid off of your paper instead of using your fingers and getting the oils from your fingers on the paper. I've yet to use this or masking fluid yet, but I've bought them both because I've really wanted to try it, and I will be trying it soon, so I'll let you know how I go with this one. And then back here I just have my AirPods and a bunch of different erasers and sharpeners and my little scissors that I like to use for staging. These are super gorgeous, and I got these off Amazon as well, so I will link them in the description box below. And I also have this brush rest that I got from Sarah B Pottery, and it came with the set that I got, and this is what I will use for drying my brushes on, to lay them down flat and allow them to dry before putting them into my cup. This is just a really cute brush holder. And then last but not least, I have a couple of cups for holding my brushes in as well if I ever want to swap it out. I have some more string for my watercolor sketchbooks. I have a spray bottle, which I use to wet my palettes with before I start painting, which I really like to use. Then I also have my masking fluid, which again, I have yet to use. I'm really excited to give this a go. Then I just have some masking tape, which I use to tape down my paper if I'm doing a really wet painting so that the paper doesn't buckle. So I use this to tape that down, or if I'd like to do a border around the edges, I use this as well. And then I also just have some rulers that I use for sizing out paper. This is a little bag that I got from Society 6 with my art on it, and honestly wasn't super happy with the way that it came out, so I don't actually have these for sale or a Society 6 account, but I did keep this bag because I really like to use this to chuck my art supplies in if I'm going somewhere and want to bring a few things along. This works really, really well. So that is it in drawer number 1. Let's move on to drawer number 2. So in the second drawer is where I keep my water cups that I use for painting. I have one from Sarah B. Pottery, and then I also have another one that matches my palette from Something Wild. This one is super cute. I love it. And then I also have this, which was given to me by a friend, but I find this works really well to kind of line my brushes on to allow them to dry. So if I've used a bunch of brushes, I will use this for drying them off. And then I have my go-to water cup. I actually prefer a shorter water cup for my watercolor art so that the entire brush doesn't get wet and just the tip does. So I reach for this a lot. It's honestly probably like a gravy dish or something. It's from Crate and Barrel, so it's just like a serving dish. So if you go in the kitchen section, you should be able to find this without a problem. Next, I have this thrifted bowl that I got. It was just too cute not to. I've used this a couple times to put water in for painting, so I really like this, and yeah, I just keep it in this drawer as well. And then I also have this thrifted kind of vintage style tray. I used to store all my paints in here, but honestly I really outgrew this, so I had to put them in the section up top like I showed you. But if I just want to pull a few paints out and bring this somewhere else in my house or to my desk, I can easily do that, so I keep this in here as well. Next, I just have my watercolor sketchbooks. These are the ones that I hand make, so all of my rope and stuff I was showing you before, I use to bind these together. And I just have some material that I got from a shirt at the thrift store, just ripped off and hot glued to the front and back so that they are protected. So I reach for these a lot and keep them in this drawer as well. Then I have my actual sketchbook. It has been through a lot. So this just has any of my sketches that I do with just pencil work. So I don't paint in this. I think it's a mixed media paper, which honestly I don't find to be the best for watercolor painting. So I just put all of my sketch ideas in here. And as I was kind of talking about earlier with that pencil, this is what I was talking about with the smudging. So it's really soft. So if I do that, you can see I have some black on the tip of my finger. So definitely not ideal for painting, but I love the way it looks on a sketch. Next, I have my watercolor journal. So this is where I keep all of my information about anything that I've learned or just anything that I want to remember, honestly, about watercolor. I keep in here. As you can see, I have information about different compositions, and then I also have some information about the paints themselves for the ones I reach for all the time. This is just so I know if the paint is transparent, if it has granulation, if it's staining. So this is just a really handy and easy go-to guide for me to check out a color to make sure that what I'm using is going to work for what I want the end result to look like. Next, I just have these colored pencils from Faber-Castell. I honestly haven't used these yet, so I really want to try out colored pencil on top of my watercolor art, and I got really excited about it one day and went and bought all the pencils, but I'm too scared to use them. I've never done it before, so it's just intimidating to do something you haven't done, so I'll let you know how I go with these. Next, I have my watercolor cards. This is not what I use to print my artwork on. It's watercolor paper, so I can paint straight on these. So if I want to make someone a personalized card, I will pull out one of these and paint straight on it. So I really like having these around in case I want to do something special for someone. Next, I have a couple of plates that I use for staging my photos. So I thought this one was really pretty. I got it from the thrift store, and I really love putting this in my photos. And then I also have this other one, and honestly IKEA did really well with this plate and making it look like it's thrifted. Like, it's so gorgeous, and the edges are kind of scalloped and the design on it's really pretty. So I like like to use this for staging some of my photos with as well. So this next drawer is where I keep some of my shipping supplies and my stickers and whatnot. So I have these 5x7 mailers that I use. So as you can see, these are just smaller 5x7 packages for shipping out my art. They're just the mailers that are extra rigid, so they're nice and firm for sending out artwork in. And then I have my envelopes for my watercolor cards that I will ship with my cards if anyone purchases one, or supply these with my cards for putting in stores and whatnot. So I think I got these from Amazon as well, and they're just an A7 size, so a little bit bigger than a 5x7 so that your cards can fit in them nicely. They're a craft brown and I just think that they're really pretty, so I really like these for my cards. Next, I have some stickers that I use for displays, and then I also have all of my clear sleeves for protecting my artwork if I'm sending it out or if they're in a store. So as you can see, I have a couple different sizes here. Just keep in mind if you're doing 8x10 prints that you want them to be slightly bigger than the print itself so that the print will fit in the sleeve. And then same goes for the 5x7s. They're just slightly bigger than what you need so that the art fits in it properly. And I have a whole bunch more of these. I'm not going to pull them all out. I also have some more stickers for different displays and for my artwork themselves. These aren't the stickers actually that I'm currently using. These are my older style stickers. I'm not sure if I'll ever use these again, but I hold on to them because it feels like a waste to get rid of them. Maybe I'll use them for something. I'll show you the stickers that I've been currently using later when I pull out my watercolor art prints. And then I have my stickers that I use for pricing my artwork for a storefront, so I can just write directly on these and price them out differently depending on what product I have and what store they're in. I tend to price things a little bit differently, so I like handwriting my prices. It just gives me a bit of freedom. I also have these smaller stickers, and I use these to write my SKU on my product for my inventory, so I'll pop this on the back so I can keep track of what's sold. And then back here I just have an extra roll of the pricing stickers and some do not bend stickers. This is for when I mail out my prints in the mail. I put this on the mailer itself so that they know that they cannot bend it, and then my art prints can get where they need to go safely. So I have a bunch of these, but honestly I'm thinking about getting a stamp. I'm not sure if I can do that on a package, but I feel like a stamp would be obviously much more cost effective, but also just better for the environment. I like to have the least amount of packaging as possible, so I might swap this out for a stamp in the future, but I do have a roll of this left to use for my products right now. In the next drawer, I have a variety of things. I have these mats that I got from the thrift store in 3 different colors, and I'm really excited to put some art in these and use them in a frame. And then also I have some cardboard that I put into my mailers when I'm sending out art prints so that they don't get bent. This is just an extra layer of protection. The majority of the sizes that I do my art prints in is 8x10, so I have a whole stack of these in here so that if I'm sending artwork out, I can just pop a couple in the mailer and then it just gives it another added layer of protection. And then under here, I just have 2 different sizes of mailers. Again, the 8x10 extra rigid and the 9x12. And in this drawer, as you can see, I do keep a roll of paper towel in here, and I just use this if I have made a mistake with my art and I need to quickly pick up paint, or if I've made a mess with my art and I need to quickly clean up a mess. So I have this just in my drawer that I can reach for if I do need it, but like I said, for the most part, I am using my cloths to blot my paint with and everything, so I don't reach for this a ton. And then in the last drawer, I just have a whole bunch of sort of techie stuff, I guess. If I need to dry off a painting really quickly, I will grab this, so I keep that in here. All of my cords for my computer and my scanner and everything. I also have my microphone that I use to voice over a video, which I will link in the description box because I'm really happy with this mic. I have my external hard drive, which I put all of my videos onto so I don't run out of space on my computer. More random cords for my scanner and my computer. A handheld tripod for my camera. A strap for my camera, which I've yet to use. And then I just have this light box that I got from Amazon, so if I draw something that I really like on the iPad, if I'm just playing around and end up really liking it and I want to print it off and use that as a composition, I can use this light box to trace over the drawing that I've done in Procreate. I got this on Amazon and it's really handy because it comes with this sleeve and the charging cord is right inside of it, and then the light box is super small and compact, so I love to use that as well. And then I have this hot press paper that I never reach for. I honestly feel like I should just give it away because I never reach for it. I tried it one time and I was really not happy with it, so I've just chucked it down there underneath everything else. So this is the organizer that I use for all of my finished watercolor paintings. So I think this is just a file folder, and as you can see it expands really large, and I keep a lot of my finished artwork in here, and then I also keep paper in here as well. So I have some printer paper, some watercolor paper, and a bunch of different sizes and types of it. And then I also have just different finished paintings from my collections, and then I have stuff that I've used for YouTube videos and kind of my more recent paintings up front here. I do have another folder completely filled already of my watercolor art, and it's down in the basement, but it's stuff that I did a while back and I'm not really using for staging photos at the time, or I'm not selling the originals of, so this is kind of my go-to stuff that I keep in the studio right here. So this is where I keep all of my art prints and the stickers that I'm currently using. So as I spoke about before, the stickers in the drawer are not the ones I'm currently using. I've been using these, which I really love. They have the extra room to sort of fold it over the top of the print, and I really like the way that the black looks on my artwork because I don't use black a lot in my painting. Actually, I don't think I ever use black in my painting, so it looks really sharp on my artwork, so I've really been loving using these stickers. And then I just have all of my watercolor cards in here as well for purchase on my website and also to put in storefronts and whatnot, so I just keep these in this bin as well. And I also keep the remainder of my art prints in here as well. As you can see, this is one from the new collection. If you go to my website, you can see these in frames and they look really beautiful, so if you want to get your hands on one of these, use the link in the description box below and you can check out my entire new collection. I've done a series of these prints with an oval background as well, so I just think it looks really pretty with just a little bit something more to it than just the flowers on the page. Although I do really love this, so I have both styles available on my website if you'd like to check those out. And then I also have these vintage style prints from my spring collection in 2022. These are on my website for purchase as well, so if you want to get your hands on one of these, you can use the same link below to shop all of my prints. A few last things I wanted to touch on. These aren't necessarily supplies, but just things that I reach for in the studio, so I thought I would show you. This is a book of flowers that I got for Christmas. I don't want to butcher the artist's name, but he's really popular in the botanical and floral world. His artworks are amazing, and this is basically just a book of all of his artworks, and it's really beautiful. And if I'm just looking to find inspiration, I will pull this out and flip through it and just get ideas on what flowers I should paint or how he uses his warm and cool tones in a painting and just different ideas and inspiration. So as you can see, he has some really beautiful artworks in this book, and I think it's fairly easy to get your hands on. This was just from Amazon, so if you want to check it out, I will leave the link in the description box as well. And then I have this clear, I think it's a cutting board that I got from Amazon, and I will use this to tape down my watercolor art to it if I'm trying to have the page not buckle, if I'm doing a really wet painting, and also for other mediums like acrylic, I will put my paint on this, so I have this on hand in the studio as well. And then lastly is this paper cutter that I got. If I order a certain size print, I need to cut it down, or I have paper that I want to cut into smaller pieces and not do the ripped edge effect, I will use this to get a really sharp cut. And it's just handy to have as a small business owner, honestly, for so many different things, cutting my stickers and labels. So I have this on hand in the studio as well. He hates being held. Do you hate being held? You do? Why do you hate it? I'm not sure why he hates being held. He loves me and cuddles me and follows me everywhere, but he can't stand being held. I can tell he's just so unhappy right now. Yep. Bye! Okay, you guys, that is it from me. Those are all of my watercolor art supplies and all of the supplies that I use as a small business owner. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're already using some of the products that I spoke about, please leave a comment down below. I love to hear it. And if you're going to purchase a product that I spoke about in this video, also let me know. I love to know that my videos are providing value to you. Let me know if there's any videos you'd like to see from me in the future. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really means the world to me to know that the content I'm putting out there is valued by you guys. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.